Next we have characteristics of particles of matter. So we have three characteristics of particles of matter. One is particles of matter have some space between them. As I said, matter is made up of some tiny particles. So each particles will be having some specific space between them. Correct? They are having some space between the each particles. So how I can say that they are having space between the each particles means, let I take the first experiment. I said we are taking a water. When I add sugar to that water, what happens? It gets dissolved in that water. Why it is getting dissolved in the water means the salt will just occupies the space between the particles present in the water. If there was no space between the water, then the salt would have not got accommodated. Supposingly, okay, if it was like this, okay, if water particles was not having any space like this, if it was not having any space like this, then your what is that, then your salt would have not got accommodated. Since it is having space like this, your salt has got accommodated in the space between the matters or the particles of water. From this experiment only I can say that all the particles are having some space between them. So this is what the first characteristics of particles of matter. So second characteristics, we have that particles of matter are moving continuously. Yes, particles of matter are moving continuously. For that we have three experiment. First one, we have put an unlit incense stick. What is this unlit incense stick? Do you know what you mean by incense stick? This is what incense stick looks. In other words, it is also called as agarbatti. Got it clear? So when I lit this agarbatti, what I am going to see means we are going to get a smell. A incense stick, when it is been littered, we are going to get a smell. So wherever, suppose if you are in your home, you have littered the incense stick in the god room, what happens means the smell arises whenever wherever you are in the home. So I can say, as I said, the air also made up of matter. It is also made up of particles. So I can say if this is an instant stick, that smell is continuously moving randomly to every direction, isn't it? So when I lit the incense stick here, when I lit the incense stick, the particles of the incense stick is moving randomly everywhere, so that a person wherever is standing or sitting can sense this smell of the incense stick. From this experiment I can say that matter or the particles of matter are continuously moving in random direction. Random direction means in every direction. Got it clear? So I can say that the matter or the particles of matter are continuously moving in every direction. Okay, let I go with the second example. Second example is we are going to take a two glass or beakers filled with water. So again, water is made up of tiny particles that we cannot see through our naked eye. To that water, I am just going to add blue color ink. Okay, to one test tube I am going to add blue color ink. What happens means, let I show you a video then for a clear indication. Just wait. So when I put a ink in a water, this is how they moves. So like this, when I put ink in water, it continuously moves. Even ink is also called as matter. It is also made up of particles. So I can say that particles move continuously like this in this direction. Similarly, as I said in the experiment, we are going to take two beaker. In one beaker, I have added an ink. In another beaker, I am going to add a honey. What if I had a honey? Just have a look in this video. So look here, we are going to add a water. To that water, we are going to add a honey. The honey is not spreading. The honey is not moving. Continuously, it is not moving. When we stir the honey, then only it is moving. So I will say why this happens later on. Again, you watch this video. We are going to add ink here. Look here, when we add ink, it is continuously moving, isn't it? So from this experiment I can say matter or the particles of matter are continuously moving. Now third last experiment we are going to take a beaker, two beaker again. One beaker we are going to fill the beaker with hot water. Another beaker I am going to fill with cold water. So in the both beaker, I am going to add potassium permanganate solution. So what happens when I add potassium permanganate solution to both the beakers? One beaker containing hot water and another beaker containing cold water. Which mixes thoroughly first? Let us see by watching another video now. So look here. In the both beaker, I am going to add potassium permanganate solution. What happens in an hot water beaker? It is mixing very fastly. Means the particles of KMnO4 crystals are moving quickly. They are continuously moving quickly in hot water, whereas in cold water it is little bit slow in mixing. Okay, we have watched a video. From all those three experiments what we have learned, I can say that the particles of matter are continuously moving. Means they are possessing some energy called kinetic energy. Now the question arises in your mind, what is the meaning of kinetic energy now? Kinetic energy means whichever in the motion or whichever in the movement, they are all said to be in an energy called kinetic energy. Since the particles of the matter are moving in a random order, since they are moving, I can say particles of matter are having a kinetic energy. Remember, kinetic energy means whichever are in the state of motion. And when I look at the third experiment, that is in a hot water and in cold water, if I add a KMnO4 solution, that is potassium permanganate solution, in hot water it was dissolving at a higher rate, or it was moving, it was continuously moving at the higher rate, whereas in the cold water the particles of KMnO4 solution was not moving in that higher rate. The reason is that whenever the temperature is more, whenever there is increase in the temperature, increase in the temperature means hot water, decrease in the temperature means cold water. Whenever the temperature increases, the kinetic energy of the particles also increases. As I said earlier, kinetic energy means motion or movement of the particles. Remember guys, whenever the temperature is high, there the particles of matter will move very quickly. Got it clear? Whenever, I just to repeat, whenever the temperature increases, the kinetic energy of the particles also increases. The movement of the particles also increases rapidly. That is what this meaning says. Remember, when temperature increases, the kinetic energy of the particles also increases. Next, lastly, we have one term called diffusion. What is this diffusion means? This intermixing of particles of two different types of matter on their own is called diffusion. So diffusion means mixing of two particles of different types of matter is called as diffusion. Got it clear? Even when the temperature is high, the diffusion also will be very high. Diffusion means the intermixing of particles also will be very high when the temperature high. So remember, from this three experiment, I can say that particles are moving continuously, but as the temperature increases, the kinetic energy, the movement of the particles increases, or when the diffusion also increases when the temperature increases. Okay, so from next video we can learn the third physical what is the third characteristics of particles.